Welcome to another episode of the Untold Stories. Remember, if you are listening to the right stories, then you are listening to the Untold Stories. Today in this episode, we are going to talk about a disease that is so common that it does not leave anyone. In fact, instead of finding a cure for it, society tells us to adapt ourselves to it. This disease is known as LKK, Log Kya Kahenge. So before we go deep into this LKK factor and know how to overcome it, let's listen to this story. Once upon a time, there were two kids, one 6-year-old Lakshman and 12-year-old Ram. They were very close since childhood. One day, while playing, they came very far from the village, and it so happened that the 12-year-old Ram fell into a well nearby. And 6-year-old Lakshman started screaming for help, but there was no one even at far distance. Small child Lakshman saw a bucket and rope tied to it. He didn't waste a second. He threw that bucket into the well and asked Ram to hold it. Then he started pulling the rope, and he went on pulling until he saved his friend Ram. Then they hugged each other happily and went back to the village. When they told this incident to the village people, they were surprised since it was hard to believe. A kid who does not have enough strength to lift a full water bucket, how could he drag a boy who was older than him by 6 years? The village people went to an old man who was well known in the village and was the most wisest person. They told him the whole story and asked him, how is it possible that a kid who does not have enough strength to lift a water bucket, how could he drag a boy who was older than him by 6 years? When the old man listened to the story, he said, "What can I tell you about this?" The kid said the things very clearly. "What more I can tell you?" See, the question here is not how he could do it. The important question is why he was able to do it. It is the only answer. When he did that, there was no one even at far distance to tell him that he can't do this. We have a lot of hidden potential that we even don't know. If we know, then we don't use it because we fear what people would say. More than that, there is our own voice shouting inside that you can't do this. What if we stop listening to these voices and listen only to our heart? I will simply say, miracle will be a very small word to describe the output you will generate. The dictionary definition of the word fanatic is a person filled with excessive and single-minded zeal, especially for an extreme religious or political cause. But it is a unique term. Anyone who has made himself someone, anyone who has reached a certain stature in life, in any form or fashion, in any field, was a fanatic. Success for him became as important as the oxygen. So the question is, are these people crazy? And the history of mankind says, no, these people were not crazy, but the society labeled them as crazy. Look into the history of mankind and you will find that every person who changed the world in any way was once called crazy and mad by the society. Wright brothers were called crazy for trying to build something that can fly. Einstein was called crazy because of his odd eccentric ways. Galileo was called crazy for letting the world know that the earth is round and rotates around the sun. Mahatma Gandhi was called crazy for his satyagraha by the Britishers and they laughed at him. Martin Luther King was considered crazy for trying to combat racial inequality with non-violence. Mother Teresa was called crazy when she left her home and moved to the slums of Kolkata to take care of the sick and dying. Anyone who tried to be ahead of time and went on to achieve greatness had to deal with being called crazy. Look into the life of all these people and you will realize that they were in a state of being in total and absolute focus. So much so that they became deaf to all the voices around them. They didn't let anyone steal their dreams. They could not pay heed to any other voice till their goal was reached. To understand this focus, there is a beautiful story of a frog in the well. A colony of frogs was traveling through the woods and two of them fell in a deep pit. When the other frogs saw how deep the pit was, they told the two frogs that there was no chance of getting out. The two frogs ignored this and tried to jump up out of the pit with all their might. The pit was too deep and the jumping frogs were barely able to get to the halfway up. The other frogs kept telling them to stop, that they were wasting their energy as it was crazy to keep jumping since they were not going to get out. Finally, one of the frogs took advice of what the other frogs were saying and gave up. He crawled into a corner and waited to die in the pit. However, the other frog continued to jump as hard as he could. Once again, the frogs on top yelled at him to stop, that it was a painful exercise that will not get him anywhere. But the frog jumped even harder and finally made it out. When he got out, he said, "Thank you for encouraging me." Turned out that he was deaf. He could not hear what the other frogs were saying and thought they were cheering him on the entire time. In order for us to achieve what we can potentially achieve, we have to keep breaking the barriers and be as deaf as the frog in this story. Life is about breaking barriers. It is about falling down on your knees and being able to come back up again. In order to pull yourself back up from the ground zero, you need to be fanatic. You need to be totally focused on where you are and keep breaking through the barriers and standing up again, not listening to anyone and any voice from anywhere. Eventually you will reach the place you need to be in. It is the place where you want to be, and the world will stand in amazement. The world is divided into lions and sheep. The difference lies in the manner in which a lion thinks and a sheep thinks. When you allow yourself to query, let alone worry about what others think, you are instantly shackled and become one of them. Sheep do not think, they react. The day that you allow yourself to ponder about what they think is the day you become one of them. The day you choose to be a lion, you will step out of the boundaries and spring free. It is the day you learn to fly. From this point, you will never need to look back. It is a completely individual experience. There is nothing anyone can do to take you over that line, but there is that line that needs to be crossed, because until you cross the line, you are simply not alive. There is no other way to live. To live according to someone else's fashion, to be turned and controlled and set into parameters by someone else, is a prison that you build for yourself. Break out, break free. The lion finds the highest point to set upon and watch out into his territory. The sheep huddle together in the lowest valley, deepest enclave, which is their comfort zone. Lions brave the wind, the sheep shy away from it. If the wind is defined as life, with its many challenges within, the lion seeks it, he braves it, he is fully alive when the wind ruffles its mane. The sheep seeks another sheep, the lion hunts alone. A leader is only a leader when he stands out from the rest of the pack. Sheep are driven by fear, the lion instills it. Sheep use fear as their driving force to run away and hide, to shy away. Every tremor in the ground terrifies them. The lion, also driven by fear, is drawn to it, seeks it and needs it, because his greatest fear is ultimately that of failure, or failing to find his prey, which defines his success. The sheep does not need to know, and the lion is driven by his desire to know. Curiosity, they say, killed the cat, but it also freed the lion. The lack of curiosity shackled the sheep. Break out and break free. It's your life. Run, scream, laugh, cry with joy. Do whatever the hell you want to. Let the world say whatever they want to, but you listen to your heart. Don't be afraid of the criticism. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of the outcome, and don't wait for the perfection to come. If you want to do it, then start doing it. Let them laugh. Let them comment. Let them talk. Let them do whatever they want to. Let them not support you. Let them be against you. But remember, the kites rise highest against strong winds, and humans attain the greatest eminence as they surmount the greatest difficulties. Remember, if you are listening to the right stories, then you are listening to the untold stories. And if this episode has matched your wavelength, then share it with people who need it. And just in case you have the time, then you must listen to my previous episode, A Complete Makeover, where I talked about ego and an important exercise called Empty Your Cup. That's all from this episode. Remember friends, you too have untold stories to tell which can make a difference in someone's life, because certain untold stories are born out of certain lives, and certain lives are born out of certain untold stories.